host, Elise Thompson. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Man, we're in a really fun series, if you will, in the podcast. We're calling this segment Conference Chats because if you missed it, we're hosting an amazing and fun conference this summer for the love of learning. We're nourishing the mother and strengthening the home is our theme for this year, and so I thought it would be a great opportunity for you to hear from the presenters so that you can visualize what's going to be taking place at this year's conference. And so today I'm excited to welcome Miss Cher Miller to the podcast. She is going to be leading a Shakespeare class. It's one of our experience classes for the conference. And so as we were planning, I was like, man, Shakespeare, that is going to be something that would be very rich and exciting for the moms to get to experience. And so as Rachel Bird and I were talking, she's like, you've got to have Cher Miller teach the Shakespeare class. And so I'm so grateful that she agreed. So I'll just read her bio really quick and then we're going to jump right into it. So Cher discovered Charlotte Mason's philosophy 17 years ago when she was preparing for homeschooling. Her first student has graduated and her homeschooling journey has only a few more years remaining. Cher has a long love for Shakespeare and thoroughly enjoyed sharing it in a Charlotte Mason co-op for 3 years. She is excited for the opportunity to share her affection and enthusiasm for the bard in her session. Please help me in welcoming Miss Cher to the podcast. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So one thing that I'm excited for on for the class, for your equip class, or excuse me, for your experience class, we have experience classes and we have equip classes, but yours is an experience class, and so you're teaching Shakespeare, and you're helping the moms to get a feeling for what a living lesson can be like. So it's not going to be just sitting and somebody lecturing you about Shakespeare. They're going to get to actually experience what that's going to be like. But I want to know, where did your love for Shakespeare come from?
Well, it started in ninth grade, which was many, many moons ago for me, when we read Romeo and Juliet, as a lot of ninth graders do. And I just fell in love with that. And then my senior year in high school, we had a student teacher join our drama class. And she asked our drama teacher if we could do Shakespeare in our courtyard during lunch periods. And the high school I went to had 4 lunch periods, so it was a really long time. And we had a whole bunch of different vignettes with different scenes that we got to dress up for and perform Shakespeare. We got to perform our own scene 4 different times.
Wow.
And I just absolutely loved it. And then in college, I discovered that there was Shakespeare in the Park in Edmond, Oklahoma, and it was super cheap. It was like $5 a person to go, and it really was just bring your picnic blanket and your picnic and just grab a spot and watch it. And they were amazing. They were just community actors, so they weren't making any money, but oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how many plays I saw for like 10 years.
Wow.
And then they finally had to end it because the park was being vandalized, sadly. But I remember taking my 5-year-old niece, and she went and saw Merry Wives of Windsor. She had no clue what it was about, but she laughed at the appropriate places because she was getting enough of it to understand that this was funny. So Shakespeare really is for the masses.
That's so cool. Wow. So your love for Shakespeare, it goes, far back, and it's pretty deep, I would say.
Yeah.
That's really that's some really special memories, like some very formative years that you got to experience and just take your time falling in love with it. That's awesome. Okay, so why do you think that, or what do you think Shakespeare offers children that other literature, styles may not be able to offer?
That's such a tough answer to do short. I think just to start out with, a really good answer is from Miss Mason, and it's not a literal answer. And I have to read it because I don't have her quotes memorized, but it sort of encapsulates how she felt about Shakespeare in comparison with any other literature. And this is
Mhm.
from volume 5. She says, "And Shakespeare, he indeed is not to be classed and timed and treated as one amongst others. He who might well be the daily bread of the intellectual life. Shakespeare is not to be studied in a year. He is to be read continuously throughout life from 10 years old and onwards." That's pretty high praise because she doesn't really say that about anything else but the Bible.
Mm.
And I don't think she's comparing Shakespeare to the Bible,
Right.
but there's just so much there
Mhm.
because he studied Plutarch and
Mhm.
wrote lots of his plays based off of what he learned from Plutarch. So
Mhm.
they're historical. There's a lot of citizenship involved. She mentions, not just mentions, she talks about Shakespeare's importance in Ourselves, which is the book that she wrote specifically to students,
Mhm.
because that is part of character formation. They learn justice and courage and
Yeah.
different things like that from Shakespeare plays. So
Yeah.
there's just a lot in
Yeah.
Shakespeare besides just his rich writing and
Yeah.
exciting stories. There's just a lot to learn in there.
Yeah. No, that's really good to highlight that there's a lot more that they're learning than just enjoying a story. Basically, there's lots
Mm-hmm.
of layered learning that's happening there. Well, okay, so maybe there's people listening that are like me that when I first started using Charlotte Mason's methods, I was very intimidated by Shakespeare. I don't have the same memories that you have where we read Shakespeare in high school. So when I first started, I was just like reading it and I was like, I have no idea what I'm reading, and this just seems really challenging. So how in the world am I supposed to be able to guide my children through this when I'm struggling with it? So for the first year or two, I just didn't touch it because it was intimidating to me. So what would you say to moms who were like me that may feel ultra intimidated by Shakespeare?
Well, I think a lot of it, like you were just expressing, it's because of lack of experience in
Mm,
understanding with Shakespeare. And I think, the while his is considered early modern English, it's still far enough back that it's different from the way that we speak and takes a little bit more.
yeah.
But I also think it's unrealistic expectations that moms have because you think that, you should know the play really well before your kids
Mm,
listen to it so that you can understand and explain, but none of that's necessary.
yeah.
You can learn it right along with them. And, one of the things that I really like is, again, another of Miss Mason's quotes, and this is actually the continuation from the quote from before. And she says, "But a child of 10 cannot understand Shakespeare, no. But can a man of 50? Is not our great poet rather an ample feast of which everyone takes according to his needs and leaves what he has no stomach for?"
Hmm.
And that's the point, is that you read it and you get what you get from it. And there's actually quite a lot. You'd be amazed at what kids, and you for sure, because your language grasp is so much better than theirs is,
Yeah.
but what they pick up from it. And you're not, just like with any other subject of Charlotte Mason, she's not looking for them to pick up on certain things. She wants them to get ideas,
Yeah.
their own. She
Yeah.
wants to hear back what their ideas are, what caught them.
Yeah.
And that's the same with Shakespeare. It's, you're not looking for them to have this major understanding. You kind of want them to get the gist, and you'd be surprised how well they do without any kind of explanation.
Mm.
But you really just want them to catch the ideas, and they'll catch them more and more as you keep doing them.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is just do it afraid. Do it
Just
afraid, and even when you don't
do it
totally
afraid.
understand, just
Absolutely.
start it. Just start
Yeah.
somewhere. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of what ended up happening. I was like, I'm gonna just keep pushing this off and pushing this off if I don't just try. And then it became one of our favorite things to do. So
Yeah.
that's excellent advice. So I think that would be the same advice if for the mom who feels like it's just over her head is
Mm-hmm.
start somewhere. What do you feel about um I know there's like Shakespeare for children, like those the books that, adapt it just a little bit? Like, do you feel like that's a good place to start, or do you feel like just just go all
I'm
in?
not, I don't use them myself
Mhm.
normally. There's a time and a place for it, and everybody has a different opinion about that. There's no just 100% right way to do any of this.
Mhm.
Um, Moms are born persons too, and they get to do it the
Yeah.
way that works for them. I think that there can be a time and a place for like the Charles and Mary Lamb,
Mhm.
where they paraphrase, and um, the Nesbit, gosh, I can't speak. Edith Nesbit
Mhm.
also has some books. I think the Lambs are better. Um, and so there's a time and a place for being able to use that before the kids. But honestly, I kind of like the surprise for as the story unfolds for the kids to not know what the story is supposed to be about,
Mhm.
and they get it as it goes along. And it was really fun in the co-ops to watch the kids because they really had no problem at all. They knew what was going on. They may not have understood every bit of it. I know they didn't understand every bit of it, but they understood plenty. And
Yeah.
so that was fun. It's like reading a good book, only it's in play form.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of nice to have surprises coming up out of it.
Yeah. So it's more just about, making the progress toward enjoying it
Mhm.
and not the perfection of like understanding
Absolutely.
the whole storyline and all the moving parts, but just you understand enough of it. And as you
Hmm.
continue on, your understanding will deepen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so again, super excited for you to share at the conference with your session. And this is for the moms. This is not necessarily like I'm going to teach you how to um, teach your children Shakespeare. This is just purely
Right.
for the moms to love and enjoyment. And obviously they'll learn things that they can take back to their kids. But what can conference attendees expect in your session?
Okay. Well, at the beginning, I do want to briefly cover like why we study Shakespeare, why he's still impactful, because it's not just a Charlotte Mason thing. I mean, Shakespeare is, his plays are still performed, widely, and his sonnets are read, all over the place. So I do want to talk about, his contributions to language and why we study him.
Mhm.
And just briefly, that won't take real long, and then we'll set up the scenario where my students will read their own scenario from a play. And that's where I will actually use probably one of the synopsis, probably the Lambs, just because I'm dropping them in the middle of a scene
Gotcha.
and they won't have time to be able to read a whole play. But
Yeah.
they're going to experience it just like kids, and get to see what it's like to read Shakespeare when you have a bunch of people to
Hmm.
be able to read together with.
Yeah.
And then if we have enough time at the end, because they're going to have to narrate just like their students would narrate, because it's a big part of it. It's fun to actually kind of share what you've gotten out of that.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to be able to have enough time to do tips for different ways to do it with your kids. It's great to be able to do it with a crowd like
Mm.
that, or like I had at co-op, but that's not always the case. Like you're having to do it with your kids, and it's really probably just your two oldest that you're being able to do it with well.
Yeah.
And that is harder at home. And
Mhm.
I can give some tips for doing that when it's just a few students, or like me with one student left.
Yeah. That's awesome. So there's going to be the experiencing the class, reading the play together, interacting, and then narrating, which is a very big part of the day and just part of what we do as Charlotte Mason educators, and then some tips
Yep.
along the way. I love it.
Yep.
Well, Cher, I have another question for you.
Mhm.
And this is like just as for you personally. Obviously, you've been homeschooling for many years now. And, one thing that I admire about you is that you're still constantly um, putting yourself in the seat of a learner and continuing to learn more about how to, educate your student, but then also just, keeping yourself nourished as, a living person and a living being. So just kind of tell me briefly, like, why that's important to you.
Well, I mean, I think that that's just sort of my bent. It's what my parents wanted was just for us to be interested, curious people.
Mhm.
But that's also kind of the crux of Charlotte Mason, and one of the many things that resonated with me when I was introduced to her when my first student was only 4. So he wasn't a student yet.
Yep.
And it's that creating the lifelong learner, and that all education is self education.
Yeah.
And I want my room to be really big. You know, how wide is the room that their feet are set in? I want that for myself too, and I have to model that for my kids. But there's, you know, with 6 volumes of Charlotte Mason, it's hard to become an expert, especially in the middle of the battle.
Yeah.
You're doing your students, and you're still trying to learn that. And you know, when I finish with mine, I hope I'm not finished with the Charlotte Mason community. I would like to continue to give in that, because
Yeah.
it, you know, I would have loved to have had a seasoned CM mom that I could tap into when I was newly starting my
Mhm.
journey.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping to be that to others.
Yeah, well, you are for sure. You are for sure that to me and so many others, and you get to bring your love for learning to the conference, and so we're so grateful for you. And it is just refreshing for people like you to love something that for many people can be kind of scary. So it's
Mhm.
refreshing for you to bring your love for Shakespeare um, to the conference and just to all those that you encounter. So I'm very grateful for you, Cher.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, okay. So I was doing a little bit of looking at the numbers for the conference, and would you not know that there's only 8 spots left in your class? So I think that there are other Shakespeare lovers or Shakespeare learners that are going to be in your class. And so if you are interested in all and learning more about the Bard, you need to go ahead and grab your ticket so that you can get a spot and be in Cher's class. And so you can do that at charlottemasonenrichment.com/conference, and you can get your ticket to be in the room. And if you can't be in the room, then you can also attend virtually. So but that is all the time that we have today. Oh, I should check to make sure we don't have any questions, because there might be some questions. Looks like there's no questions here. So, but if you have a question, you can send us an email, elise@charlottemasonenrichment.com, and we would be so happy to answer that for you. But that's all the time that we have for today. So, Cher already alluded to it. The only true education is self education. So, we're never going to stop learning, we're never going to stop growing. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Have a great one.